Good morning, everyone. We're now beginning the last two Torah portions of the book of Exodus, talking about the building of the tabernacle in the desert. A lot of years, these two Torah portions are separated. They're together. The Yakel Pikude, they come together. But this year they're separate. And we'll learn a little bit more about that when we have the Devar Malchut class. But these two Torah portions are very unique, totally different than any of the others, because they are basically just a repetition of two other Torah portions. And Truma and Tetzaveh, which we learned about 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago, it talked about the building of the tabernacle and of the garments of the Kohen, of the priests. And this week's Torah portion and next week's Torah portion repeats the same details. And repeats the same thing. The big novelty is that those two Torah portions we learned a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about God's commandment to Moses and Moses' commandment to the Jewish people. But here we're talking about the Jewish people actually doing it. How the Jewish people reacted and they actually did it. Namely, they built this tabernacle in the desert. And the tabernacle, of course, could be assembled and disassembled and assembled. And they took it with them. And from this, we learn a very basic thing about Judaism, that Judaism is very, very attached to this physical world. And there's a very big stress on this physical world. And the Chassidut, the teachings of the Chassidic rabbis, beginning with the Baal Shem Tov, and that was one of the main novelties of Chassidut Chabad. The novelty is not that they did something new; they just discovered something that always was there. But the novelty is that they taught it. What did they teach? That this world is more important to God than all of the upper worlds and all of the heavens, than anything. And each instant of this world is infinitely novel to God and infinitely precious to God and infinitely important. It should be infinitely important to us. But that's only if we appreciate the Creator. We have to appreciate the Creator. Then if we appreciate the Creator, then we can start to see how miraculous it is that He's creating this world personally all the time, every detail. And that was evident to everyone in the tabernacle. And there was another thing, not just that there is a creator, and not just the creator is creating everything all the time, me and you and everyone, but, and this is the most important, that he's creating everything for a purpose, and that purpose is to serve him, to make the world a blessed, holy place, and that everyone will see. This is such a big novelty to God, that God gets tremendous pleasure from this. This whole thing sounds a little bit weird, and it is weird. In fact, this really is weird, but that's Judaism. And that's the message of Judaism, and that's why God created man. That's why God created the first man. He said to put him in the world, to work on it, and to preserve it, of the L'Shomer. So that's the whole idea of this tabernacle. So it comes down to me and you. Me and you, if we're here and we're learning and we're alive, breathing, it means that God is creating us. And if God is creating us, it means he's creating us for a purpose. And the purpose he's creating us for is exactly the same purposes he created the first man for. And not just he created us when we were born, but every instant he's creating us brand new. And he's creating it for the same purpose that Adam was created. And that's why the Holy Temple was here, to remind us of that. And that's why it says that the Holy Temple brings forgiveness of all sins, because according to Judaism, the way you get forgiven for your sins is you just change. You just realize that sins are a mistake, terrible mistake. And that you just make a resolution to change, and you change. I mean, it's not that, it's that simple, but that's the basic. That's the basic of it. And according to your degree of how genuine you are in your desire to change, and you're willing to take steps, to do what it says in the Torah, to rectify that. And that's what the Holy Temple was, that it fixed everything up, made a healthy world. Healthy world. Okay. So in order to make this healthy world, so there's two steps. First of all, God telling us what to do, and then are actually doing it. So what God told us to do, that was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And Truma and Tetzaveh, two Torah portions we learned then. And now it's talking about us actually doing it. That's Vayakel Pekudi. That's what we're learning now. Okay, so it starts off like this. Moses says to the Jewish people, take, I don't know, I'm in the wrong place. There we go. Just one second, I want to get this pointer here. God says, take a truma to God, take a donation to God. Everyone should take a donation to God. Call Nadiv Libo, anyone who has a generous heart should bring his donation to God. Okay, so it says over here, it's a pretty strange sentence. I mean, what does it say? Every word in the Torah is very exact. So why is it repeating this over again? What does it say? Let me get this, make this bigger here. Oh. So why does Moses say to the Jewish people, everyone bring a donation to God? Everyone who has a generous heart should bring a donation to God. What do you have to have the first one for? Just say anyone who has a generous heart, bring a donation to God. Or just say everybody bring a donation to God. Both of them are unnecessary. To take a donation to God, bring a donation to God, it says take a donation to God, and everyone that has a generous heart should bring a donation to God. So it seems that there's two different types of donations that have to be given. One, you take a donation to God, and the other one is generous hearts, they bring a donation to God. So maybe there's two types. He says, yes, there is. Let's understand why are these two donations to the tabernacle and what it means to us. One of the donations, it says, was to God. Truma la Hashem. It says, bring it to God. Oh, here's something we didn't notice, right? It says, bring a donation to God. That's the first one. And then the other one says, just bring achas, based trumas. Achas, one is to God, and the second one is a truma to God. One of them says, bring a truma, a donation to God, truma to God. And the other one says, trumat Hashem. Yaviu et trumat Hashem. The donation of God. We didn't notice that. One of them says, bring a donation to God. And the other one says, bring the donation of God. Trumat Hashem. So there's two different types of donations. Truma, what's this relevant to us? This is relevant, Lashon Romamot, to be elevated. Romamot, Aromemecha Elokei Amelech. We say, I will elevate you, God the King. We say that in Ashrei, Psalm 145. Also, Truma also means Hafrasha, to be separate, Hafrish Truma. So the word Truma means to elevate, and the Truma to mean separated. Right? All this is going to come together when it's talking about our service of God. Let's understand, what is this truma? What are these two trumos, haromos, the elevations? Okay, let's understand first of all the first one. It says romos. What does it mean? Elevation. Who ki'ine know that's known. Sheish beit bechinas ishtalshlus. Okay, we're serving God here. Why are we serving God? Because God is creating us. God is creating everything. And He's creating us for a purpose. And that purpose is that we should recognize that God is creating us, and that we should take this to heart, to mind, and to heart, and to action, speech, and thought. And that God is creating us. And when that happens, it changes the whole world. The world becomes a healthy world, and everybody's uniqueness is revealed. Okay, so let's understand a little bit about God. There's two aspects of God. One aspect of God is how He fills the worlds, And the other aspect is how he surrounds the world. Now, again, we have to stress that the world, the physical world, is very important to God, much more important than all of these other aspects. But in order to appreciate this physical world, we have to understand God a little bit. That's the motto of Judaism. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Shema means understand. Understand, Jews, you have to understand God. So we have two different aspects of God. God is much more involved in the world than we can possibly imagine. There's one aspect of God that's Mamalik Holmi, that fills all the worlds. And the other one is called Sovev Holmi, how God surrounds all the worlds. In a simple way, we can say how God fills the worlds is how God articulates himself and is involved in every detail. What do you say? Molecule and atom and quark and interactions, all the planets with all the angels and all of this. There's billions and infinite numbers of planets and even more infinite numbers of angels. And God is creating all of it all the time, and he's very involved in all of it, and everything is different from everything else. Everything, even for no other reason that everything is in a different place than everything else. And that's called God Mamalik Holmi, how God fills all the worlds. And then there's another aspect which is called Sovev Holmi. That's how God surrounds all the worlds, means that God is not limited by any of this, the worlds. It's not defined or included or in any way. This aspect of God which fills all the worlds, who commotion is like the soul, that enlivens the body, is enclosed in the body, to enliven in a different, how do you say, a different way, an individual way. Let's take an example where we want to look at God. The point the Rebbe wants to put out here is that God is real. Not only is God real, but God creates all reality. So that we can't possibly understand how God creates anything. The whole idea of what is creation is beyond our imagination. Because we can't imagine what is nothing. God is creating something from nothing. But that God is involved in everything, that's a little bit sort of understandable a little bit, right? You see a beautiful sunset. How did the sun get up there in the sky? Maybe it was just a Big Bang theory. It could be, but how is it staying there? What is creating it right now? So you can say, well, it's just laws of nature or laws of physics or something. Or you can say it's God that's doing it. Or you can say that God is creating the laws of nature. And God is creating the sun with the laws that apply to the sun and the moon and gravity and these things. And God is creating the whole business. So to understand how real this is and to take it out of the world of conjecture and philosophy, let's look at ourselves. We're real, right? We exist. You have a soul? Yes. A person, when he's dead, he has a soul? No. But he's still there. All the limbs are there and everything is there. So, so he's still valuable, right? What are you putting him in the ground for? Hey, that's a human being. It's not a human being. It's not true. A human being he's buried like a human being, but that's not really a human being. A human being is alive, and he's alive. Everything works. Everything works. So that's something like the world. If the world we reveal the godliness in the world will work. It'll be a good world. There won't be any more famines and diseases. So if you want to start to feel the reality of God, let's take a look at our soul in our body. Our soul in our body. And so first of all, we see that the soul enlivens the body. And of course, there's a lot of people also that say that there's no such thing as a soul. There are a lot of people that say that there's no such thing as a soul. It's just a body, and the body has batteries, and there's a system like a computer. It's just all wires and stuff like that. There's no really human being inside there. It's just this sort of, thing that sort of works. It's just, how do you say, combustion head or something like that. An organic created. Now they have these artificial intelligence. These things are not organic. We're organic artificial intelligence, right? We're just sort of made by ourselves. That could be, you could think that way, but the Rebbe says, no, that's not you can serve, certainly you can, but it's not the truth. The truth is that Judaism is trying to bring the truth. The truth is God does exist, and that God enlivens us, and that God is more real than we are. So let's take an example of the soul and the body. The soul, we don't see it, but we're alive. In a way, the soul is more real than the body. In a way, it is. Because a body without a soul is dead. You bury it. The soul is the most important thing. True, the soul has to have a body inside of it. Excuse me. But things like genius and beauty can only be expressed through the body. But the genius and the that's the main thing, is the spiritual thing. Plato called it the forms. And that's the main thing. So this is the spiritual aspect of the body that enlivens the body. That's something like how God enlivens the world. That's like the soul enlivens the body. The soul comes to enliven, and everything is divided. For instance, thought is different from speech. Speech is different from deed. This the brains are in the head. Intellect is here. Everything has its own place. Also in every limb, there's an individual life force, that the life is enclosed in every limb according to its ability. The power of sight is not put in your feet. If it was, it wouldn't do any good. And that the life force of the soul is, in general, is in your brain. And from there, it's drawn down to all of the limbs according to how they are. In the eye, there's the power of seeing. The ear, there's power of hearing. The power of deeds, this is drawn down into the hands until the lowest power of deed, that's in the feet. So it comes out that there's the soul, even though the soul is a spiritual thing, but it can be, if you, how do you say, divided. I keep using the same word all the time, but I can't think of a better word. Articulated. Nimsa or, so it comes out the light, and the life shines and is enclosed in every single vessel according to what it is. So this shows you how close God is to us. Okay, and therefore, we're going to see he's even closer than this. Okay, and therefore, b'mochin, in the brain, there shines a ray and a life more than in the, and because the vessel is finer. So the brain has more life in it than the foot does, or than the eye does, because the brain is of different stuff. Okay, and therefore, yochel ora, therefore there can be this ray of life, right? We're trying to compare the soul to God, just like the soul enlivens the body. So God enlivens the world. So the soul enlivens each and every limb according to its nature and according to its composition and its refinement. And whatever is refined more, like the brain, it gets more life. What's less is less. Okay, therefore, therefore it can receive more life, is the revelation of seichel and machshava, the brain, which is not the case. The hands, they are lower. And they do not receive so much life. Let's make this bigger here. Why? The hands, because Anakli, the vessel, the hands, they're not able to receive such a high revelation of life. Therefore, the soul is not so revealed in the hands as it is in the brain. Nevertheless, there is a ray more than, for instance, in the feet, the hands. The feet only have the power of walking. The hands, much more, you can play piano, you can express. The hands are much more expressive than the feet are. The feet are also expressive. There's expressive dancing and things like that. But dancing is more dependent on the whole body, the movement of the whole body. And the hands, that's just the hands alone. So the hands are more expressive of a person than the feet are. But the brain is more expressive of the person than the hands are. So in this case, we're saying the person is your soul, which is not the case. Your hand, you can do all sorts of intricate work. You can write books of wisdom. Because the mind, that is not in the hand, it is revealed through the fingers. So the hands are much more, they say, refined and delicate than the feet are. Which is not the case, the power of walking in the feet. The feet are not anywhere near as expressive. The feet cannot write books. Usually, the hands do not. I mean, there are people that didn't have hands that they can train their feet to, they can write with their toes and things like that. But however it goes, even the most unique person that has trained his feet, the hands are much more expressive of a person than a person's feet are. Right? You can't play piano with your feet. You can't play violin with your feet. Right? Again, nevertheless, in this ray of godliness, there is something more of the soul. We're talking about the soul. This is the metaphor. Now we're going to get to God in a moment. But we're talking about just like God fills the world, so the soul fills the body. So if the soul filling the body, that way it's a little bit closer to us because we see that there's dead people that don't have a soul, and that's it. They're just dead. The feet and the hands are the same. The brain and the feet are the same. There's no difference whatsoever. In fact, the brain and the feet are the same as a tree, even less than a tree. It's just not expressive at all. A tree, it's like a rock. So when a soul is there, then there's expression. So we see that there's more expression of the soul in the brain than there is in the hands, and more in the hands than in the feet. But the feet have some advantage. What? That they carry a person and they move a person, even the head. A person with no feet, so he has to make all sorts of, how do you say, tricks and things, get a wheelchair or something like that in order that he can move. Because the notes are the feet have the power to move. And that's a power which is not in any of the other limbs of the body. Naturally, in any case. People can walk on their hands across, you can roll. But the feet have the unique power to walk, to run, and that's a unique power because in some ways that's a higher power. The feet even carry the head. That's because that in the end is somehow or other found the beginning. The highest powers which can't be revealed in the head are revealed in the feet. The feet have a power that the head doesn't have, namely mobility. There's a level, and his mobile makes even the head mobile. That's what in the end, there's something that's found in the beginning. But because it's called the feet are called the end, and the hands are not called the end, the lowest level are not the hand. The feet are the lowest. Where is revealed somehow or other the essence of a person that he can move, he can even move his head, only in the feet. Hainu Shabiyad, in the hand, there's a revealed life more than in the feet, like we said before. And all of this is because there's more life in every limb according to its ability. Okay, but somehow or other, in the feet, there's contained a special power that there's not in that. Okay. So this is talking about, we're going to take this and make this all these details that we said about the head having more revelation of life than the feet, but the feet nevertheless have the special thing. We're going to apply this to God. Now we can understand how to apply this to God in regarding the Seder Ishtalshelus, the order of the creation of the worlds, how God is drawn down from into all in the worlds. Every world and every creation Lefi shara delay, according to its ability. Lefum shara delay, according to its ability. In other words, the light that's revealed in the worlds is according to the purity and the refinement of the world. Kafi asher yochal seid, according to how it's able to be revealed and bear. So you can't, just like the foot cannot think, so also this world cannot have a big revelation of God. Whereas the brain can. Okay. This life is called in the Zohar Mamalik Halmim. That just like the soul fills the body, and there's different revelations of the soul in different parts of the body, so also the God fills the world. That's only one aspect of God. In what's called Gan Eden Elyon, the upper heaven, There's all sorts of different levels of heaven. It's called Gan Eden Elyon, the upper heaven. That's also referred to as the world of Bria. There's Atzilut is the highest dimension of godliness. And then there's Bria, which is a lower dimension. And then there is Yetzira, which is a little bit lower than that. And then there's Asiya, which is lower than that, a different dimension of godliness. These are different aspects of, just like in the soul, there's an aspect of the soul is revealed in the brain, and then a little bit lower is revealed in the heart, a little bit lower in the hands, a little bit lower in the feet. So it is also godliness. In the upper worlds, for instance, the upper heaven, that's where the tzaddikim, the big tzaddikim, that's the world of Bria. There shines revealed light of God more. There shines the truth, life. This is like, for instance, a human being. The brain has intelligence, comprehension. That's revealed in the brain and the head. So the brain in some ways is more real, that's more human than any other of the limbs. Then afterwards, that's like the world of Bria where the angels are. Afterwards is the world of the tzaddikim, Then there's the world of the angels. That's called the world of Yetzirah. Their main thing is emotions. They haven't got such understanding of God like the souls do. That's like the life which is drawn down into the hands. Chesed, Geruah. Chesed is called the right arm. Gevurah is called the left arm. That's the Machana Michael. It says that's the camp of the angel Michael. Gevurah, that's the left, God's left arm. Hibachin is Yira, that's fear, that's Gabriel. That's also corresponding to the heart, right? The hands are on the same lung as the heart. So the brain is more awareness. It's more the human part of the human. And then we have a low, that's the same thing as how God is revealed in the world of Bria. That's where the tzaddikim. Then there's the world of Yetzirah. That's the world of the angels. That corresponds to a human being. It's like your heart or your arms. Afterwards, nevertheless, the arms have, there is a little bit of intelligence revealed in the hands. Like, for instance, a person is a piano player or a violinist or someone who makes pottery or draws a picture or something like that. You can see that the hands have a certain amount of wisdom to them, not like the brain. Also, it's just like the intellect is drawn into the emotions of the heart. This is an inner revelation more than in the hands. The hands are the external of the emotions, and the heart is the internal of the emotions. Also, there's angels in the world of Yetzirah that they have their inside. That's like the angel Michael, Gabriel. That's fire and water. And this is the emotions of the life. And then there's other angels which are like the arms of God. Those are like life of the angels that comes down into the world. Like, for instance, there's the Chayas HaKodesh and etc. Okay, Cain also conceive, it says, Ata asita teshamayim, you, God, made the heavens and the heavens of the heavens. Ayamim, the sea, and everything that's in them. This is, we say this every day by Yavorech David, when they brought the ark back from the police team. So King David made a big praise of God, and this is what he's saying. So it says, you made the heavens of the heavens, the seas, and everything that's in them, and you enliven everything. This life force from Va'ata, from you, God, just like the soul enlivens the body, and the soul is more real than the body, so God enlivens all the worlds, and God is more real than the worlds. Ata machayet kulam, God, you enliven everything. You're enclosed in all the worlds, and you fill each world according to its ability to receive. That there's the heavens of the heavens. That's a bigger revelation, more than just in the. One second. More than in the heavens, and also the heavens. This is more than the earth, and etc. Like we see clearly. Okay, so what we're talking about God here, right? You have to appreciate God. You have to appreciate God. It's necessary that everybody appreciate God, right? Just like everybody, there's basic laws of traffic laws, right? You have to know. In England, you drive on this side of the street. In America, you drive on the basic things you should know. in order to get along in life, right? Food, don't eat just sugar. There's basic laws of reality that you have to know in order to get along in the world. Says the Rebbe, it's necessary also that everyone should know that there are necessary, basic laws of creation, of reality. What is the creation? What are you? You have to know you're living in God's world, just like when you go in England, you're living in the world of the English people. You have to drive on the proper side of the street. Right? And there's certain customs you have to do. You don't throw spitballs at the Queen or something like that. You don't do things like that. You just don't do it. The same thing, that's when you're in England, you're living in the land of the English people. We are living, everyone, in the land of God. God is creating the world. So we have to know a little bit about the laws. And it's even better if we appreciate the owner. So it says you want to appreciate God. Listen, God is loving everything. He's creating everything. He's creating everything according to a purpose. And you should know that this world where we're in is not the only reality. This reality is much more real than we are. We're like the toes, like in a human being, the toes. You look at a person's toe, you know what his IQ is, you know what his name is, you know what is anything about him. You know, maybe these people in reflexology, for the reflexologists, they can know a little bit more than regular, but you know, you don't hire a person to work because you look at his toes, his toe prints. Toes don't tell anything about a person. We're like toes in relation to God. There's all these levels of realities which are much above us, and from each one we can appreciate God a little bit more. That's the point. We can even, says the Rebbe, here's an example, we can even see it better when the man was drawn down. Manna, the manna that was drawn down is also the food of the angels. It says, mamtir lechem lechem mina shamayim, bread from heaven. And it says, bereret atal yered man. There came down some sort of dew, and the man came on top of it. And then there was dew on top of that. Hani aman, the man is called lechem abirim. It's also called the food of angels. Shamalchi ashurit, that the angels, they also are nourished by this man. This makes no sense. How can angels, that they're spiritual, eat man, which is physical? Like it says clearly in the Torah. It says that when the man fell, that man is manna, right? Manna. When the man fell, how they got the word manna, I don't know, but in any case, man. When the man fell, it says that they ground it up or they crushed it in order to make bread from it. So how could the angels eat this? I mean, you don't see angels eating. Why do they even need to eat at all? Right? They're spiritual. They don't have to eat. Like Moses was on Mount Sinai. He didn't eat, right? Or maybe he did. One second. What's going on? We'll see. But and it's like this, that this manna that the Jews ate, Shorshu, its source is very, very high. It is drawn down in this level of what we call tal l'shamayim. What does this tal do? Do all the time, right? This is not the dew of the manna. The manna, this fell down with some sort of a spiritual dew. This is called tala de bedulcha. This is called the white dew, which is a tremendous high level of spirituality. Like it says, kital oros talcha. Like it says that the dew of light is your dew. DEW. Nimsa show comes out that this manna that fell down, it fell down together with this tremendously high spiritual lights, which are called the dew tal. So it comes out that the whole business is totally spiritual. And it's called, in the Zohar, it's called tala da natif me'itika. It's called the dew that drips down from this inner crown of God to the emotions of God. In the Zohar. That's what's called Tal Shamayim, the dew of heaven. That's the blessing that Yitzchak gave to Jacob. The Hain, Mamish, I think he also gave it to Esav also, the same. Hain, this is Mamish, Nimshachot, they are drawn down and put into this physical manna that we eat. How can it be? How can there be from such a high place so much that it came down into this physical world that people ate it. Vade lokomosha, or it's not like the light itself that's above is drawn down and revealed down here. I mean, this is actual food that they ate. It was in the field, and on Shabbos it wasn't in the field. It was actually there. Shari Bekin is tal, this dew, which is called the dew of your light, God. This is tremendously high lights and revelations of pure reality that we're not privy to. We can't get this level of the upper dew. This is higher even than any of the vessels of the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut, which 10 Sfirot of Atzilut is like pure godliness. And this dew, the source of this tal, from the what's called the tal of the Bedulcha, is higher than Atzilut. Atzilut is considered to be one of the worlds after the Tzimtzum, and this tal is even before. And therefore it's called tal orot, it's called dew of lights. If so, how can it be drawn down into the physical world? Ella, but I mean, maybe you can say it's two different things, right? That the food that the angels eat is one thing, and the food that we eat is a different thing. It says, no, it's not so. It's the same thing. How can it be the same thing? Elavadai, it means low. By means of these lights being put into the effect of what's called the order, the chain of creation. Madriga from one level to the other. Shemaya Shemayim, like this is the heavens of the heavens, and then it came down to the one-time heaven, and then afterwards it comes to the earth. Therefore, while it's still above, before it comes down to this process, the angels can get fed from it. And then it's still pure food, and it's not physical at all. And then afterwards, it gets more and more physical, and it becomes Muslim gashmi, it becomes physical food. Huh? Maybe we can say it's like this. Even this is a bad example that I'm going to give, but I'm telling you. Let's say the people that planned making the atomic bomb, they planned it. There was the famous, what was it called? The Manhattan Project. They got all these great minds together, and they planned everything down, and they got the whole thing all planned out, and nothing actually had happened yet. Nothing had happened. It was all in their minds. They all had the thing figured out. This is the way it should be, and this way it should. And then they started working and refining uranium, whatever they did, right? And then it started to come. But when it was in their brains, the whole thing was there, but it wasn't manifested. Somehow or other, there was some trick that happened by bringing from your brain into your mouth, and from your mouth, and then if you say it, it comes to people's hands, and then they make machines, and the machines make. It's a sort of a poor example, because here we're talking about the same exact thing becomes physical. And so the ideas that are in their mind, that same exact mind, that the ideas don't become physical. The ideas translate it to something else. They order someone else. But it's something like that. The mana, how it is in its source, is something like the ideas that are in a person's mind, and then it comes down lower. Nevertheless, malubish ba'oros elyonim, mamish, never, even though it comes into the physical world, this physical mana that was in the ground, it comes in at tremendously high lights, just like the atom bomb. It just makes a big explosion and wrecks things, or they use it for positive things, whatever. But really, inside of this whole business is tremendously deep. They say formulas of physics and mathematics and chemistry in order to make this the thing work. And it seems to you just to be a bomb. What's the big deal? A bomb. So it's a little bomb, a big bomb. But really, it's very, very difficult. The same thing is also with the mana, how the mana fell. And the Rebbe wants to say that this is even not just the mana is just an example of how something clear example, how something spiritual, which can be eaten by the angels, becomes something that seems to be physical in this physical world, becomes physical. The Rebbe wants to extrapolate from this, though, that the whole world is like this, that the whole entire world is really pure godliness, but it's just become more and more and more and more physical till the point where it's even more physical than the mana was, and the source of it is even higher than the mana was. The world comes from the essence of God. Okay. And therefore, this bread, when it was mana, when it came into the world and people ate it, it still remained the food of angels. And it gets absorbed. When we ate it, when the Jews ate it, it becomes absorbed in their bodies. What's called the 248 limbs. The Ein Mimeno Pasolas, and it says, but nevertheless, there was no waste products from it. It was pure godliness. Therefore, on Shabbat, it didn't come down. They didn't need it. There was no Shabbat. They were fed, so to speak, from the man automatically on Shabbat. There was two, which is not the case. All the others, they're drawn down. Also, one second. Also on Shabbat, which is not the case, the Esav, which is plants and things like that. She'ein lo mazal milamayla. I'm sorry. She'ein lo Esav, she'ein lo mazal milamayla makabo v'omer gadol gam b'Shabbat. Ma'she'ein kin aman. It says that everything keeps growing, the world keeps going on Shabbat because it's a very, very concentrated aspect of godliness. So therefore, on Shabbat, the external worlds don't stop on Shabbat. The external worlds, the grass keeps growing and the sun keeps shining. But the mana is not so. The mana, because the mana was essentially pure spiritual, even when it came into the world. So therefore, on Shabbat, it wasn't revealed, because Shabbat is enough spiritual. Shabbat is enough spiritual. Shabbat means everything spiritual sort of rested. And the man rested on Shabbat. But the physical things kept going. Hainu Mishum, the man was drawn down this tremendously high level. And this level is impossible that it can't come down on Shabbat, because then all the worlds go up. Rak only shalafi aliyah zu. According to this, it's only penimis b'lachabad. That's what it says in Shabbat. All the internal spiritual worlds, they go up. So the man, because it was purely spiritual, so it went up. It didn't come down. But everything else comes down on Shabbat. The rain falls on Shabbat and everything, because this is only external. Shabbat is all the internal worlds go up. That's why only Jews are supposed to keep Shabbat. Not the non-Jews are not supposed to keep Shabbat, because Shabbat is not just a day of rest. Shabbat is a day of the soul, of the godly soul, and only Jews have a godly soul. And if so, I mean, the soul is godly. Everybody's soul is godly, but the soul of a non-Jew is more appreciative of the world, and it senses that there's God. And the godly soul of a Jew is sure that there is God, and it senses the world. So therefore, the main thing, that the Jewish soul is something like the mana. It's purely spiritual in the world, therefore it rests. The man also rests. If so, move him, he says, so we can understand how it is that the man could be enclosed all these high lights of godliness, this due, because of his stauschlus madrigal, because even though, yes, it didn't become totally physical, but it did undergo this process of tzimtzum, of somehow some concealment and contraction of God's revelation there. Just like from the highest of heavens where the souls are, it came down to a little bit lower level of heaven where the angels are. And therefore, Ein Doma, the man, was not similar to how it was below when it was above. That below it became physical, which is not the case when it was still above, when it was still spiritual. Then it was the spirituality, it became bread for the angels could eat it, because the angels are also creations and they also have to have food. They have to be nourished. Namely, that man, as it is above, is a higher level than when it comes down below. So it comes out that what? That you can have more, concentrated, physical. Physical is not the word. Manifested spirituality and non-manifested spirituality. You can have spirituality, which is spirituality, and then you can have spirituality, which is physical spirituality. Physical spirituality, that was the mana. The mana was spiritual, but it was physical. But there was a higher level of it. So it comes out that a person can understand that it's possible God does things like this, that God can actually take his spirituality and make it more and more physical without it losing its godliness. It just loses the nature, the revelation of godliness. That's called mamalik olamim, how God fills the world. That the life comes down from the highest of highest levels, and it comes down below, and it still retains its godliness, but it becomes godly according to the level that it's found. The whom mashikatuv, this is what it says, Ata machayat kulam, that's what it means, you, God, you enliven everything. Okay, we're going to find another example also, and then we're going to go and learn about what a sovev kalamim, surrounding the worlds. And with this, we're going to understand what the two types of truma are. The two types, like I said before at the beginning of the class, the essence of man is to serve the Creator. He's creating us for free. And serving him simply means to bring out our potential to improve the world according to God's standards and to appreciate God. But everyone is different, and there's different ways of expressing this. There's one way which is called memalik kalamim, appreciating how God is different in all the worlds. And then there's sovev kalamim, which we haven't gotten to yet, which we're talking to. But the point is to appreciate and to be in awe of the fact that we are creations. And on one hand, that means that we're nothing. We depend totally on God. And on the other hand, it means that we're more amazing and spiritual, not spiritual is not the word, precious, than we can possibly imagine. In God's eyes, God personally is creating us. And this refers to Jews and non-Jews, everyone. That's our message to the world. That's Moshiach. That God is creating everyone, and everything is really very, very, very good. The world is good, and every human being is good. To reveal this is the job of Moshiach. And meanwhile, we're making vessels for it by appreciating it in these two different ways, appreciating how God fills the worlds and how God is different, so to speak, in each world, reveals differently in each place, and how God surrounds all the worlds, that we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Okay, now let us do the Devar Malchut.